Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's the drive. Way back. It could be. In a high drive into left. Back goes to Craig. He's at the track. He has it. The world champion for 2011. A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it, go to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron Nuttall and Peter Geddes.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Another week of talking about what's happening in the non-baseball season. GM meetings have wrapped up, I believe, today, and I'm kind of thinking that I don't think we hear a lot of information or a lot of news that happens. But I tell you what, the rumor mill is churning in full force, and we're going to talk a lot about that. And we're going to address, I think, off the bat, a couple massive elephants in the room. One, we have Giancarlo Stanton. And you have the young guy from Japan, Ohtani, who everybody's talking about. Is pretty much those two guys are dominating the headlines right now. So let's just get into it. Pete, how you been, man, over the week?
It's been a good week, man.
What are you looking down at, by the way?
I'm catching up on Twitter, catching up on the news that I missed. I've been active. You have been active, and I'm catching that. I'm catching up on everything that happened today because at 7:30 I unintentionally, well, not unintentionally, but I did. I unintentionally went out of pocket, and so I wasn't able to keep up with the news. And it's just about the worst time in baseball to not be able to keep up with the news because there's a lot happening right now, even though there's nothing happening, right? There are a lot of rumors, and you know that there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes, and there's maneuvering that's being done in order to set teams up to land the big free agent or to make the big trade. And it's kind of hard to follow it when it's rude to pull out your phone. So I'm catching up as we're starting the show.
It's okay. It's okay. I forgive you. And I have a day job too, so it's hard for me. I mean, I have to cheat all the time, and look down. I'm using the calculator function. Leave me alone.
I wasn't at work today.
Oh man. All right. So I'm not going to ask. You may not want the public to know
that I wasn't at work today. I took the day off. I took a personal day.
There's no such thing, man. It's called a selfish day. It's called a selfish day. I would love one of those. Anyway, so let's just start off with the big one, right? And that's our guy and newly crowned MVP of the National League, Giancarlo Stanton.
Congratulations, Mike.
Mike, we're with you, buddy.
It was close.
It was closer than I thought.
Shit.
It was closer than I thought. I know, right?
I just saw the totals. One third place vote. No, a second and a third would have done it for Votto. That's how close it was.
Yeah.
They had the same number of first place votes. Wow. Basically, whoever voted for Chris Bryant screwed Joey Votto.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And Votto was one of those. I mean, there were a lot of arguments made. If you had been looking at a lot of websites today, there were even Twitter. There were tons of arguments, and they were pretty good ones, right? About why Votto deserves the MVP, or at least heavy consideration. And it was close, so it wasn't a runaway decision. But here's still hard to. I mean, how do you? What would your reasoning have been? So Chris Bryant, right?
Who votes? No. I'm looking at the expanded voting now, right?
Yeah.
Who votes Giancarlo Stanton 5th or 6th most valuable player in the league this year?
I don't know. This stuff is so subjective that you would. Here's the thing, right? Those writers are exposed who they vote for, so it's not like a secret. And I'm sure that some of those guys will get some questions, some fan mail.
I can't wait to read their explanations for why they thought he was the 6th most valuable player in the National League this year. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that means that they voted for probably Joey Votto, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and Charlie Blackmon ahead of Giancarlo Stanton. I'm sorry, no. No.
There is no way. Now, a couple of those guys were that you mentioned were certainly deserving of being in this consideration. Charlie Blackmon, you could argue that perhaps he should have won MVP. Votto, very, very strong arguments for Votto, but I think they got it right this year.
Yeah, I agree.
So. But anyway, so that's one award that's given out in the American League. We might as well just mention it while we're on it. Jose Altuve, the MVP, and if I think everybody in the world agrees with that, unless you're a Yankees fan. Altuve, and look, I haven't watched that guy much, right? But we hear about him. We might see a Sports Center highlight here and there. But when I watch him in the playoffs, I mean, my goodness, there isn't a team in this league or on the planet that wouldn't want that guy as their everyday second baseman. I don't care who you have.
I agree.
Right? I mean, would you give up Javier Baez, Aaron Zobrist combination for Jose Altuve like now? Right now. Both players.
Both for him?
Jose Altuve, would you do it?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't give up both for him.
Oh my God, you are out of your mind. Fine.
I would give up either one of them straight up for him. Well, you know what? You might give up.
That's why the Astros don't do.
There you go. Actually, you might give up Zobrist, not Aaron. Ben. Again, let's get that right. Yes, you said Aaron.
You might as well throw Aaron in.
You would just to get out from underneath the salary cap, but the Astros wouldn't make that deal because they don't want that dead contract.
Astros don't want that deal because they would never take Baez and Aaron's. Jesus,
there it goes again.
They've never take those two for that guy ever.
No, but I do. I love him. He's so much fun to watch. Okay, so I found the voting for the NL. So this is not going to shock you at all. The person who voted Stanton 6th, Tracy Ringlesby of MLB.com, who covers the Colorado Rockies.
No.
First place, Charlie Blackmon. Third place, Nolan Arenado.
That is some objective.
Yeah, he went Blackmon, Goldschmidt, Arenado. So in other words, see him a lot, see him a lot, see him a lot. Joey Votto, Chris Bryant, Giancarlo Stanton.
I tell you, if you want to go to MLB.com to tune in to actual scores, box scores, or statistics, that's fine. If you want to go there to it, all right, let me tell you, folks, go to MLB.com to get your news about your team if vanilla is your favorite ice cream flavor. Because that's about what it is, right? I mean, there's no news that's reported on there.
Hey, you want to know who voted Stanton 5th?
Probably some guy from Miami, right?
Nope.
Guy from Chicago.
No.
Garrett Gould, St. Louis.
No, but close.
Okay.
Rick Hummel, St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
Oh, come on.
He went Blackmon, Goldschmidt, Arenado, Votto, Stanton.
All right.
Apparently, he and Tracy Ringlesby are having a hot affair because what is it? Their top 4 were identical. Top 4, exactly the same.
Well,
they're going hot and heavy.
Well, not that we always agree with writers, we don't. But when you have a bunch of them agreeing to one thing, generally the outliers are just wrong. They're just wrong.
Yeah,
they're wrong. Sorry, guys. Explain it however you want, but a majority of your peers voted completely different than you. So you're wrong. Your vote's wrong.
I agree.
So congratulations to those two guys. I genuinely enjoyed watching Jose Altuve during the playoffs, and I did get to see one of Giancarlo Stanton's rocket launches, laser shots at Busch Stadium, where I'm pretty sure a parent had to pull a kid out of the way in the bleacher seats so they wouldn't catch that ball. But no, so not really surprising how it ended up. But let's address the elephant in the room. Giancarlo Stanton, who he's going to, has dominated. I mean, every time I've jumped in my car to go to work, to go to lunch, to come back home, that seems to be the topic that's up there. And Ohtani hasn't showed up as much, at least in talk radio, right? But
he's all over the internets.
He's all over the internets.
He's all over the internets.
Dominating MLB Network Radio has been Stanton. I mean, it's been on every random time I've jumped in my car. There's been somebody addressing.
That's because your favorite flavor is vanilla.
I said this earlier, right? So it's kind of been a mixed bag between those guys in there. And if you've listened to that, it's on Sirius XM, but if you listen to it, there are a fair amount of former GMs that contribute. So they seem to think a fair amount of them, I think, are going, hey, well, Dave Dombrowski will get it done. He'll do whatever he needs to do to get him to Boston, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they seem to like that guy. I realize it was appeared to a lot of them. That seems to be what at least when I've been in my car, what I've heard the most is that most likely they're thinking Boston will somehow, some way, Dave Dombrowski will pull that off. So
well, he has no guardrails, unlike most other general managers, right? He's basically been given carte blanche to do whatever he thinks is necessary to win. And I haven't seen that with many other teams other than possibly the Yankees. But the Yankees already have a right fielder. So I think they're one of the few teams that, well, I wouldn't say not. I mean, you have to get – that's just like Ohtani. I think you have to kick – we discussed this in the last podcast. I think you have to at least kick the tires and see what it's going to take. Now, apparently, in talking about Stanton – excuse me.
You're all right.
Yeah, just a little cough. Apparently, in talking about Stanton, the word has gotten back to Derek Jeter that if Stanton was on the free agent market right now, the contract that he has is the contract that he would get. So if Derek Jeter thinks that he's going to be able to trade away Stanton and get any kind of a prospect haul without taking some salary back is a pipe dream. So it may end up taking longer than they expect because I get the sense that Derek Jeter's a competitive guy and he's not going to back down easily.
No, that makes 100% sense. Now, here's the thing, right? So people have been speculating that if the Marlins are if it's just a pure salary dump, then they're expecting the receiving team to absorb most, if not all, right? If they're willing to kick in whatever that number is, I heard Steve Phillips a couple of days ago say $75 million, then they can get a significant prospect return. $50 million, they might get a couple guys that have some promise. So who knows how it's going to go? But I'd say this though: if now that there are like 8 teams being mentioned, prospects are going to be involved. I don't care if it's a pure salary dump or not. When you have that many teams that have that much serious interest, you're going to have to give up some talent. I mean, that's what the Marlins are going to be looking for if they're smart. They're going to want. Because of the money involved and the length of the contract, they may not be able to demand your top, but they're not going to take nothing.
No, it's not going to be nothing, but they can't expect that they're going to get the kind of returns that the White Sox got, for example, in the trades that they executed last year.
No, absolutely.
They're going to get salary relief. They will get salary relief, or they will get prospects.
And if they want your best, they're going to have to kick in some more money.
They're going to have to eat some of that contract.
Yeah,
or they're going to have to package one of the guys who they've previously said is off limits, like Yelich or Ozuna.
Right. I'm going to screw this name up, and we can come back to him later if we need to. But another Marlin who has been brought up, not a Marlin, I'm sorry. It was rumored at one point that they were looking at Ziegler as a possibility, a throw-in for a trade situation like that to St. Louis. So what you just said kind of made me remember that. I'm like, yeah, that could be plausible. I mean, if you look at the Cardinals do have some young arms, if they have a lot of young outfielders. He's talking about outfielders. Is that what the Marlins need? Do they need? They may if they're considering trading Ozuna, which they don't. They've kind of been out there saying no, we're not. We're not talking Yelich or Ozuna. But I think they have to be. They have to be listening on everybody. I don't know who's untouchable.
Yeah, they put out a list of, I think it was like 4 or 5 players that they said they were looking to shop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. They have to listen on anything because
they
got to get this done, right? If they're serious about cutting salary, and clearly they are, Scott Boras notwithstanding, they're going to have to listen to any offer in order to make it happen.
Which will be a topic soon. Which will be a topic real soon. on this show. But yeah, no, yeah, you're right that here's the other thing to think about, right? Stanton just was awarded MVP. He had a monster year. His trade value is no higher than it is right now.
Right.
Because think about it. What a risk you take not at least setting him up with a place that he might want to go to. If you don't do that, you risk going into the next season. What if he has a down year? What if he gets injured? What if he gets hit in the head again with a damn baseball and he's out for the whole? I mean,
and that's the other thing that
their window is right now to do it.
And that's the other thing that makes it tough is Stanton has a full no trade clause, and so they can get a great deal, but they need to get a great deal with the right team because he might not. I mean, does he want to go to, let's say, Houston, right? Even though they just won it, does he want to go to Houston? It doesn't matter if the Astros basically offer Derek Jeter the whole team. If he doesn't want to go, he doesn't have to go.
Right. Now, so that's another thing where, you know, the rumor mill has been in full swing this year. I mean, here's the thing, Pete. Here's what we know. We don't know shit about where he's going to go or not going to go. According to him, according to what he's willing to do. We really don't know. We've heard, I heard this at the trade deadline that he wouldn't accept a trade to St. Louis. That he wouldn't. Now we hear earlier in the week he won't accept a trade to Boston. He doesn't want to go to the East Coast. But then reports like literally like a tweet an hour later from a recognized sports reporter says, no, he's actually keeping an open mind on everything. He hasn't said. The only thing we know that he said, that he's been on record as saying, is that he doesn't want to go to a rebuild. Right. And that's it. So we truly don't know.
Yeah, he really hasn't said anything.
No, it's been a lot of speculation. I mean, unless somebody's had a private conversation and they leaked that conversation out to the public, or somebody tried to at least. But right now, it's pure hearsay, rumor. We truly don't know. So I have no idea what to believe. I don't feel any more confident that a deal like this would happen than I was a week ago. I really don't. I think the Cardinals are in a position if he was willing to go there, they have what it takes to get it done, at least as far as what they can offer the Marlins, and they have the money to pay for it.
Right. They have the two things that the Marlins need. They probably have prospects, and they have
probably
money.
More so than the other 8 teams that are mentioned.
Well, I don't know. The Dodgers have money.
The Dodgers have money, but as far as what they're willing to deal over cost-controlled young talent, I don't know that. I know the Dodgers always. I mean, they have a perpetual strong farm system, right?
Seems like it.
But the Cardinals have an unusual amount of in the pitching area and in the outfield of young talent that the Dodgers may. I'm sorry, not Dodgers, but the Marlins may be more appealing to them. But regardless, I mean, here's the thing: the Dodgers run into look where their salaries are at now. All right, look where their payroll is at now. They're on the high side. Adding him, I don't care who they get rid of, and I know they've got some things that have come off the books. Right, they've had Andre Ethier. I think he's off the books now. Or is it Carl Crawford? I might have those two backwards.
I think it's Ethier.
Carl Crawford. It comes off next year, right?
I think Ethier's isn't Ethier a free agent?
He is. So I think he's off the books now. So I mean, I realize that, in the next 2 or 3 years, they're going to get some of those bad contracts off that they inherited from Boston. That those are going to disappear. But I mean, really, man, when you look at this, it's can they do that? Is that what they want to do? Is that what they feel that they need? And who knows? I mean, that's probably the destination he would covet the most, and possibly even the Angels, maybe.
Right, because he's from California.
Right, he's from Southern California. He's not going to go to San Diego. He already said, "I'm not going to a rebuild." So that kind of pushes them out. So you only have 2 teams sitting there, and San Francisco is obviously one of the other ones that they say are pushing the hardest, and that's what I've read recently, that San Francisco is pushing the hardest. Is that where he really wants to go? That's not a hitter's park.
No. Now
it's not like the guy can't hit a home run there, because I think but it is a pitcher's park, right? It's been known for that.
Right.
So is that really where he really wants to go? Are they ready to be back in contention and win next year? Based on how they perform this year, I'd say, well, I think they fall into that same category. I think it's going to take more than adding a Stanton for them to get back into contention, I think.
Right, and where is Madison Bumgarner? Right, how he's coming back from an injury.
He's out here, actually. He's just like a couple miles, I think, that way, riding his 4-wheeler.
So is he going to be 100% healthy? Right. What are they going to do with Samardzija? Are they going to keep him, or are they going to package him? They've already indicated that they're probably going to move Hunter Pence to a part-time role They're anticipating, it sounds like, picking up one, possibly two outfielders. So how is that? What effect is that going to have on?
We're hearing Jackie Bradley Jr. right now.
Yeah, it sounds like they're looking at Jackie Bradley Jr. and then Stanton, which would be a coup for them to pick up both of those players. Would that be enough? Yeah, you're right. That might be what it takes to get Stanton to accept that deal. And so it may be that Stanton trade ends up taking longer than we expected because he's going to want to see where teams stand. He's not going to approve a deal on the promise of, oh yeah, well, we're trying to make the trade for Jackie Bradley Jr. He's going to want to have already read it. Yeah, that Jackie Bradley Jr. is heading west.
Yeah, I mean, you could be absolutely right, but here's the thing, though. I think if he's not going to approve a trade to St. Louis, and the Marlins know he's not going to, obviously they're not going to tell anybody that right now. Then they lose leverage, right? And I believe the Cardinals are one of the pieces of leverage they're going to use to get as great a return as they can out of somebody else. But I will say this: the longer that it goes on, John Mozeliak and the GM Mike Girsch they've already put their neck out there and said that they're going to make a serious change. They're going to address the middle of the order. They've said that. And so the longer this goes on, they're going to feel pressure to go to plan B, C, whatever they've got. And I think they'll do that quickly. So I think by the time we get to winter meetings, I feel like the Cardinals will have needed to address, if not the middle of the order situation, they will have had to address the bullpen and possibly a starter. I don't know how desperate they are for that. And if they do those two things, the likelihood of them actually pulling off a deal for a guy like Stanton, I think, become less and less. So I think the more the Marlins try to drag this out and get more teams involved, I think a couple of their leverage points are going to probably drop out.
I think this is going to be a really interesting winter meetings.
I hope it is, man. I'm looking forward to it, but I hope it's not a dud at the end of the day. The GM meetings, I think usually they are a dud, but I really thought more would happen this week. I mean, there was a lot of talk, but there's so much talk, man. You just kind of get lost in all. You don't know what's likely, what's not. I mean, what's just a bunch of chatter. There's been a lot of chatter. I mean, a lot more chatter than I remember last year.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that more is actually going to end up shaking out this year because there's so much. Although the other elephant in the room is Shohei Ohtani, and is he coming or is he not? All signs point to yes, but now the Players Association is balking because they don't like the fact that, that he's going to be grandfathered into the old system if he comes this year, and that the player is going to get significantly less in this case than his former club is going to get. But in which case, I think he probably then waits 2 years, doesn't come until 2019, and goes for max dollars.
Bigger payday.
Absolutely. Because the posting system won't be a part of it. He'll be an international free agent because he'll be 25, and he'll be able to ask for the kind of money. At least that's what all the scouting reports say. He'll be able to ask for elite free agent kind of money despite never having faced a single major league batter. Well, I imagine he's faced them in the World Baseball Classic because he pitched for Japan.
Did he?
Yeah.
In the last Classic?
Yeah, he did. He was part of the team. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So he's had some exposure, and I read the same thing you're talking about today, and it seems like I don't know. I don't know what's going on inside the guy's head, but yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's a huge difference, man. If you wait 2 more years and you can demand a $200 million contract versus what's he going to get now? Like 3.5?
At most 3.5.
3.5, right? I mean, I don't know, man. If the guy's that good, what's your rush? You're 23 years old.
But apparently money has nothing to do with it. He wants to face which hats off to him. I'm really glad to see it. He wants to face the best in the world, and money isn't a consideration for him, which is why he wants to go now and doesn't want to wait 2 more years. Because I'm sure he is well aware that he could make more money. Hell, he could make more money next year because there are a lot of teams that are currently in the penalty box that can only offer him $300,000. And that will come out of it on, I believe it's July 1st. Cubs are one of them. But he could face a bigger payday next year alone because of the change in the posting system and because more teams will be able to spend money on him. And knowing that he's probably going to come next year, they would probably, I imagine, budget their international free agency dollars that way in order to accommodate him. But if he's not going to be restricted in 2 years, but apparently that's not a consideration for him. He wants to come face the best competition in the world, and he wants to be able to pitch and to hit on a fairly regular basis.
Okay. Let me put it this way then. Let's go back to 2001.
Okay.
Pete Geddes working at Sears.
Yes, sir.
Say they offer you a salary of $35,000, or in 2 years you might be able to make $200,000. You know, wait and stick it out with me, Mac, and Chad at Sears for 2 more years and wait for that big payday, or you're gonna?
That's where it falls apart.
I want to sell with the best now.
That's where it falls apart.
Why?
Well, because I want to sell with the best. Why would I stick it out with you, Mac, and Chad?
Come on.
I want to face the good competition.
You can't buy those memories, man.
Why do you think I left early? I got offered more than $35,000 a year. Hell yeah, I hit the road.
You did hit the road. Long drive too. All right, so we have we have a little bit more to go through there, but you know, I don't know, because the Cardinals have not come up in any of this Ohtani conversation. In fact, I don't know. I've seen the Cubs. At least somebody wrote that they might have it. They do have interest in him, and there have been a handful of other teams. Of course, the Seattle Mariners are in that mix. They always are. And they have been. Jerry Dipoto has been the only one to pull off a couple trades.
Yeah, he made a trade the first day that it was possible. The first day of the meetings.
You know, we see it, Pete, and it wouldn't shock me at the end of all this thing if all of a sudden the Seattle Mariners end up with Giancarlo Stanton,
right?
For some damn reason, and he'll go there and he'll produce. And the Mariners will always finish in third or below. It's just what they are, man. I mean, they had the 1 year under Lou Piniella where they won 106 games or some crazy number like that, maybe 150.
116. I don't know, they broke the record.
116 regular season games. That's amazing.
Isn't it?
And they're in this thing every year. You go back to Adrian Beltre. They pried him away from the Dodgers when he was first a free agent, and they do this from time to time. And I wouldn't be surprised if they all of a sudden Ohtani's a starting position player and he's a damn pitcher for him, and Giancarlo Stanton's standing in right field. Nothing would surprise me with what that team does in the offseason. And the other thing that doesn't surprise me is that they're going to finish third or lower in the AL. That's the formula. That's what they're going to do. They're going to spend a shitload of money, and they're going to always finish third or below, right?
Yep, right. Absolutely.
They're always in these conversations.
Of course, because Jerry Dipoto loves to make a deal.
It's not even Jerry Dipoto. It's just Seattle. I mean,
well, okay.
Did Seattle make Jerry Dipoto, or did Jerry Dipoto make the new Seattle? It doesn't happen, man. Seattle makes you.
You think?
Yes. Absolutely. All right. You know, somebody was bringing up an interesting earlier. I heard this. I might have heard it or read it. I don't remember at this point. But so if Giancarlo Stanton is only going to settle on one destination, and somebody brought up this parallel, and go back to Ken Griffey Jr., where he only wanted to go to Cincinnati, right?
Yep.
And so that GM couldn't get the max he could get. Imagine if Ken Griffey Jr. was willing to be traded anywhere. Imagine what you could have got as a return, right? But when a player says no, only going there, like, yeah, you get Mike Cameron in return, right? So it's just it will be interesting. I mean, what is the truth behind this? Is he only willing to go to Southern California? Because that pretty much limits us to 2 destinations, and what are you going to get max for that? Who knows? Who knows? But we have some other free agents. All 9 of the players that were eligible, that were flipped a qualifying offer, every one of them declined it today.
In a shocking turn of events.
Oh my God, man, that's newsworthy. And let's just go through the names because I don't think anything on here is going to surprise us. But we made some predictions last week on a very interesting show. Buy it or bullshit, and we're going to replay that probably in about a month, if not 2 months, just to see how right my brother was.
We were.
See how right my brother was, not knowing a damn thing about this. But I wouldn't be surprised if his percentage of correct calls, except he did say Eric Hosmer would most likely be out of the league. Because he wouldn't vote on that. I think he's probably going to fall short.
He said he didn't like his name or something, right?
No, he said he didn't like anything I just said. And, he said pass. So that was it. But anyway, Eric Hosmer, I think all of us collectively, with the exception of Scott, we're like, okay, he's probably going to the Red Sox.
It makes sense.
Does make sense. But it also makes sense in a way for St. Louis. But in another way, you think about it, like, don't you already have Eric Hosmer in form of Matt Carpenter? How different are their numbers? Matt Carpenter's costing you less than $10 million. Do you really do this for double that? So that has come up too. They have met with Hosmer's agent, which is the famous Scott Boras. Which, Pete, I want you to touch on that after we're done with all this, because I don't know if it's just advancing age or what, but he pulled out some. We'll get into it later.
He pulled out some real doozies this week.
Oh boy, property taxes and all kinds of other things. Yep. So Eric Hosmer, nothing. Again, nothing has changed a lot. There's been a few other teams that have been mentioned more often than they were the week before. The Cardinals were definitely one of them. Mike Moustakas also declined. I mean, the first three that are listed on here are all Kansas City Royals, which it just makes you go back and go, gosh, that the GM for the Royals is probably like just looking at this going, Jesus, those were the droids I was looking for. He should have traded those guys before the non-waiver deadline because he got nothing. I mean, literally nothing out of it. He's going to get nothing out of it.
Yep.
So Mike Moustakas looks like he's definitely on his way out, as well as Lorenzo Cain. I have no idea where the latter two might go. If you heard anything on Moustakas or read it, I mean, could he be another candidate for the Red Sox? Moustakas has been tied to the Giants. I think that's the popular belief that he might be San Francisco bound. Lorenzo Cain, no clue.
No idea.
Every one of these guys could be tied to the Giants. In fact, I think
You're
every
right.
sports writer that has no clue has Giants been mentioned as a possible destination.
Well, because they've made it pretty clear that they are looking to completely retool.
Right. Jake Arrieta. Obviously, we knew he was going to decline the qualifying offer. A scary thing came up earlier in the week, though, that I did retweet. The Cardinals' name were mentioned somehow, some way in this form. And I thought, Jesus, as much shit as I've given that guy over the last year, could he actually wear a Cardinal hat, and how would I respond?
How would you respond to Jake Arrieta being your ace?
How much crow would I eat? Would I flip? And would I own an Arrieta jersey? Would he be my new favorite? I mean,
you would flatten the bill on your cap.
It'd be a hard thing to do. I don't know how to not put it. Usually, as soon as I put it on, I'm going like this. I mean,
at 2 o'clock in the morning, Ron would be sitting there ironing his cap down. Come on, get flat, get flat.
Stapling a board to the bottom. I have no idea, but but anyway, nobody knows where that came from. That's probably just what it probably is speculation that bubbled up to somebody writing it and putting it in print, digital print. But anyway, so Jake Arrieta, again, there's been no further news on what he might be doing, but again, he's another Boras client. So that thing could drag on till February. Now, Wade Davis is another one. And so I've heard both with Arrieta and Wade Davis. Is there speculation, and if you've heard anything on your end out of Chicago, is there any interest in Chicago actually taking it seriously to bring either one of these guys back?
I think there's been some speculation because of some of the things that Theo said. I believe it was Theo who said earlier in the week that there may be some interest in reaching out to Davis early in the free agent process to see what it would take. The Cubs are not known for giving long-term deals to closers because they feel that works itself out.
Yep.
But it's nice knowing that you have that rock at the end of the game. And it's not just his performance on the field. Apparently also he's a really good bullpen guy. And that's what they like about him. So I think there's a little bit more fire there. I think the whole Arrieta thing is let's see what happens. if excuse me, if it seems clear that Arrieta is going to get 5 or 6 years, I think the Cubs are out. But if the market doesn't develop like that, and it's looking like maybe 4 years could get him, then I think the Cubs might circle back around and see what it would take. But Arrieta has given no indication that he's going to give any kind of a hometown discount, that he really cares about Chicago beyond what they can pay him. This is his first opportunity to really make a splash and make some money in free agency, and he clearly intends to do so. Whereas Wade Davis has said some very nice things about Chicago. He has indicated that he liked his time here this year.
And never smiled.
No, he hasn't. He and Ian Happ, I think, have a bet to see who can smile the least. And I think Happ is winning one smile to a smile and a grin. So it's a very close race.
Okay.
But I think that there's far more likelihood that Davis gets brought back than that Arrieta gets brought back, because I think the Cubs probably can are looking to solve their rotation issues, at least for this year, probably with one free agent signing, and then I would guess another trade, because I think they're trying to save bullets for next year. Because next year's free agent market, at least now, we don't know what's going to happen with extensions in the next 12 months. Next year's free agent market looks like it's going to be a bonanza.
All right. So Lance Lynn, I think we knew he was going to decline the qualifying offer to St. Louis, and it looks like he has seen his last day in a Cardinal uniform.
You don't think they'll bring him back?
I really don't. I think they're going to, and who knows? I mean, it could be a mistake, but for whatever reason, they didn't think it was worth. He's going to demand somewhere close. I mean, in this day and age, he's going to be $15 million plus a year for probably another 4 or 5 years. And I just don't think they're going to do it.
I just don't think he's worth $15 million.
I don't either.
Do you?
I don't either. Apparently, the Cardinals don't. $15 million or under, and if the term was with, if it's a 3 or 4 year deal, you got to do it. I mean, he had one speed bump in his career so far, and he had Tommy John surgery. But other than that, he's been an innings eater and a solid 3-4 starter. And those guys are $15 million players at this point. Where we're at now. But he's had a decline in velocity. Really hard to. I mean, that's probably being brutal, given that he's just a one full season removed from having that surgery and recovering. But yeah, the Cardinals clearly are ready to move on. I think they think they have enough talent that's ready to come up and contribute as far as a starter. But I still wouldn't be surprised if they're taking it seriously to sign another one to add something. Although some of the reports you see, if you believe them, they've come out. Well, the Cardinals aren't looking. They're actually not looking to sign an Arrieta or a Darvish. Although that was a report earlier in the week. It's kind of there's been some contradictory information that's coming after that. So I don't think they are. I think they've got enough there that they're going to take their chances with what they have for starters. Now, Alex Cobb, I think we all know where this is going.
I certainly hope so.
I mean, I think he's going to be a Cub. I don't see that seems to be.
He had some very nice things to say about Joe Madden and about Jim
Hickey, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, if there's one consistent thing that's been said about any of these 9 guys that have declined the qualifying offer, the consistent thing across the board has been Alex Cobb has interest in Chicago. Chicago has interest in number 1 target, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think there's no mystery here.
No, I think it's just a question of, is it a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal?
Yep, agreed. And then you got Greg Holland to round it out. You got Greg Holland and Carlos Santana. The Cardinals have been linked to one of these guys, and that's Greg Holland.
Really, I read today that actually at the beginning of the show that they might be a fit for Santana at first base.
Oh my God! Okay, so that's information I haven't read since I was looking at my phone while I was supposed to be working today. But Santana would be a new thing for me. I actually hadn't caught that today or picked up on it. You're telling me different.
Yeah, no, I caught it. I know I caught it.
He's a first baseman, so
he is.
Now here's the thing: So a little bit in other news this week. So we'll kind of transition to what else we're talking about while we're on Carlos Santana. I think the Cardinals, by the way, I don't think they're ever serious about Greg Holland. I don't see that happening. I'm not certain. 1 year of success recently is going to justify what he's going to be asking for, and I just don't see them going there. So I'm going to move off of him. Speaking of Carlos Santana, so they've informed Matt Carpenter he's going to assume more of a utility role. So think more of like a Ben Zobrist role. Like you're going to be in the lineup every day, but you're not always. You're not our first baseman.
Right.
You're not our third baseman. You're not our second baseman. You're going to be a super utility guy. They've also informed Dexter Fowler you're most likely going to move to left field. All right. So,
which I think is and I know Mozeliak said it's not. I think that's the first step towards getting themselves out from under that contract.
It could be because if he's unhappy enough, the fewer years left, the easier it is to get rid of. And,
sure.
and he's going to be a Cardinal probably for 2 more years, and maybe they can flip him. We'll see how this year goes. I mean, you and I both agreed, like 1 year in a multi-year deal, we're not going to jump the gun and say he wasn't worth it. It's terrible. It isn't going to work. It is unfortunate though, and I got to say that I don't know if I believe that my team has handled this whole situation very well. And I'll say it for this reason. Well, but you know what? Historically, they have. I mean, free agents that have come here that guys that they have traded for. Go to like a guy like Jim Edmonds, right? Mm-hmm. California guys playing for a California team, all of a sudden gets traded to a Midwest team. Like, why the hell would he? I mean, do you think he was excited about that when he first learned the news? Like, he got traded to St. Louis? Like, always growing up and living in California and then playing for a California team, and then all of a sudden you get traded to the Midwest, you think you're going to be excited?
Well, but the Cardinals were a good team at the time.
It was 2000. And from 99, 98, 97, they didn't make the playoffs. In fact, they only made the playoffs once between the year he got traded to them and 1987 was the last year they made the playoffs. So they weren't a good team when he got traded. But I think since then, you're under DeWitt ownership that I think the players that have actually got in there and experienced it, for the most part, Jason Hayward's the one exception that didn't stay.
Right.
But I do think they know how to handle these types of things. But I don't know. It's just where the hell are we going with the story? What are we talking about? Please remind me.
Dexter Fowler and how poorly they've handled.
I think they've handled it, but I think there's been a change. And the only thing that's different, Pete, it's not the owner. Okay. The GM's been different.
Yeah.
But he's been there since 2008 is when he assumed that position. The one thing that's different in the Cardinals front office or dugout has been Mike Matheny and his coaching staff. Now, did Fowler produce early in the year? No, he didn't, and that's why he got moved out of that leadoff role, and in combination with Matt Carpenter not being able to hit third. Now, injuries may have caused him to not play a very good center field.
He actually delivered from an offensive standpoint.
He did in a different way than they expected, though.
Right. And in a role that was unfamiliar to him.
Yeah. And there's promise for that, right? But you got to think about it. You were a leadoff hitter and you signed a 5-year deal and you told you're gonna be our center fielder and our leadoff hitter, and then all of a sudden, that doesn't happen. So I mean, who knows what's going on in the guy's head? It's probably not ending up in year 2 like he thought it was going to be when he signed the contract. Obviously not. But I'm not sure that under the Mike Matheny reign that he's owned the dugout and the lineup card. I'm not sure that here's where I'm going with this. You've had that happen, and you've had a player leave. That normally doesn't happen, and it's happened recently. So what's changed? the guy that's making the lineup card every day. That's been the one thing that's changed since guys, all of a sudden players don't want to come to St. Louis anymore. It's just observation. I haven't read this or heard this anywhere, but I'm just thinking about it. So I think they have to ask themselves that question. Is it his style of leadership? Is it the way he runs a clubhouse? Is it the attitude? Is it, something's different? Because guys used to like coming there.
And staying.
I mean, think of guys like that's why I brought up Edmonds. I mean, he's a California guy. Why the hell would you ever want to go to the Midwest if you've only known California? You wouldn't. McGuire's the same way. Yeah, that's a good segue here in a second. But I mean, McGuire was the same way. I mean, he was a California guy, played for a California team, and okay, I realize his former manager was in St. Louis, but I mean, he agreed to stay too, right? And I just think it was the organization, the way it was run, the way they made guys feel, and it's just something has changed there. I really believe that, and that could be. Do you think baseball players don't talk in the off season, even if you play for a different team? I mean,
they do.
You know they do, and so, I mean, do things get around? And I'm sure they do. That gosh, St. Louis used to be a pretty decent place to set some roots down for a few years, but something's different now. It's just not very fun.
Yep.
Yeah, they got to ask themselves that.
And it's clearly not very fun because that was one of the things that they talked about. Was going to be an advantage in bringing in Dexter Fowler, was that he was going to bring some fun and levity to the locker room. And all of a sudden, about halfway through the season, we hear about how players aren't happy that Dexter Fowler is the last one into the locker room and the first one out.
Well, we hear that. Who knows? But yeah, something's changed. You can feel it just when the camera shifts to the dugout. You see different things these days, right? So just doesn't something's off, and hopefully they're addressing it. I'm just hoping they improve it and they recognize the problem and they're going to try to improve it. And I think, Pete, if they make moves this offseason, if you're Mike Matheny in that dugout, you got to be feeling the pressure. If they make moves to improve the team and you miss again, no way he can come back.
No
way.
No, and it's not going to be little changes to his coaching staff. You're going to see a complete overhaul, top to bottom. Well, maybe not top to bottom. Maybe Mike Maddox finally gets a chance to run a team.
Or Jose Oquendo.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I really believe that no matter what happens, I don't think that guy's they're not going to let him leave the Cardinals organization unless he chooses to do so. They're definitely not going to push him out. There'll be a damn uproar over that.
That wouldn't be a bad move.
No. And I told you my theory earlier, right, was they brought him in because you're the guy, man. If he's not getting it done this year, if he can't,
what do you think it takes for Matheny to get pushed out mid-year? How bad do they have to be?
For them to get pushed out mid-year, I think if it's well, here's the problem though. At the All-Star break, they weren't in that bad a shape as far as you looked at standings.
Right.
But I would still say if they put the effort in to make the changes that they have in the coaching staff and they put the effort in to make the changes in the player personnel, they end up with a similar record at the All-Star break. First of all, it's very unlike the Cardinals to. I mean, they've had the same manager. And look, man, they're hard to predict because they've had the same manager they've had two managers in the last like almost 20 years, more than 20 years. So I think it would be surprising if they let somebody go mid-year. But it would have to be so bad. I mean, they would have to be so far out of contention and worse than they were the year before. Let me tell you what, if they make some commitments and sign some people or make some trades and inherit some long-term contracts, like if they were actually to get Stanton and their record's worse at the All-Star break than it was this year, maybe.
What if it's not worse, but they're just out of contention? What if the Cubs or the Brewers start like a house on fire and at the All-Star break, the Cardinals are 500, but they're 10 games back?
Boy, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I would be shocked to see them do it mid-season, but I don't have an answer for you. I don't. I mean, if they actually bring in somebody like that and they're out of contention that early, mean, they weren't out of contention until mid-September this year. I mean, truly, right? I mean, now mathematically they had 3 games. There were 3 games in the season left, but realistically they were done a couple weeks before that.
Right.
If they're actually like realistically out of contention in mid-July, maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough to get them to do it. Well, that culture would be shook up, though. I mean, I don't know if it would be in a good way or a bad way, but when you let a manager go mid-year, I mean, what good comes from that in season, except if you're Jack McKeon, 2003, right? I mean, that's
you had to bring
the only
up.
example. Like, I'm sorry, I wasn't actually thinking about that year. I remember that's been the only time.
Grandpa Jack.
Been a
damn, that's son of a...
But that's been the only time I could remember or recall off the top of my head where there's been a mid-season managerial change. And I'm sure it's happened before, though, but that's the only one I can remember. Yeah, right.
No, you're right. That worked.
Who knows if it worked or not? It just might have been the shock in the clubhouse that got it going. It might not have
but
been
in that case, it did work.
Did work. Yeah. I mean, it could be equivalent to one of those, a manager decides to get run from a game because he knows it fires his team up.
Right.
And front office has certainly tried to do the same. The Cardinals have done something like that before, but they've done it with players, not managers. In 2014, they shipped off Alan Craig and Joe Kelly. I mean, guys that we thought were going to be part of the future for a very long time. They shipped them to Boston for John Lockey.
Well, we thought that they did it this year. Well, you thought that they did it this year when they traded Mike Leake. You thought that was you thought that was intended to send a message. I thought they were throwing in the towel on the season.
No. I don't think it was a message at all. I think that they realized that they had somebody desperate enough for pitching that they were able to get rid of him. I don't think they were trying to send a statement at all. I mean, he was shit. He wasn't pitching good at all. I mean, they couldn't keep running him out there. They're going to have to. Here's the thing. Like, okay, he's still our starter technically. Right? He's still making starts. We can find somebody to do it because we're going to have to eventually get him out of the rotation or shift him to the bullpen. So I think they found a way out, even though they had to kick some money in, but they found a way out, and that's it. I don't think that was a shocker to. I don't know. I'm not in the clubhouse. I can't imagine that was a shocker to everybody. Oh shit, man! We're all at risk now because Mike Leake was traded.
All right.
And it definitely wasn't a white towel because they were still in it.
True.
Into September. So
yeah, but they weren't. We know they weren't.
Oh, shut up. All right. So anyway, the Cardinals have been coming up. A more recent thing is I'm going to butcher this name. Alex Colomé. Did I say that right?
Colomé. I believe it's Colomé, isn't it?
I don't know. You're probably right. Closer for the Tampa Bay Rays. I think they're in discussions right now. Everybody knows that's listening to this. That's a Cardinal fan knows that Trevor Rosenthal was released. And the speculation on Rosenthal is he's had some offers according to his agent, super agent Scott Boras. He's had a couple offers that would offer him a salary over 2018 to lock him up for 2019. But he actually may be inclined to sit out a year and do what Greg Holland had done. Is that wise or not?
What?
I'm just not sure.
Who sits out a year?
I think it's because we'll pay you a couple million or whatever to rehab in 2018, and knowing that you're probably not going to be able to come back and contribute, right? Because he's Tommy John surgery, and he was diagnosed and had it in August, so he's probably not going to be able to pitch at all in 2018.
Okay.
So do you? Okay, fine. So you're going to retain me. You're going to pay me a little bit less, betting that I come back somewhat in form in 2019, or do I sit out 2018 and try to re-sign as a fresh free agent in 2019? I don't know. I don't know what the advantage of that would be, but that's something people are referencing. Greg Holland has done at one point in his career.
Well, and that was kind of the feeling on what was going to happen with Tyson Ross this year, right? Nobody was quite certain if he was going to come back. And so the thinking was, okay, well, we'll sign him, let him take as long as he needs to rehab, and then bring him back and see what happens. That didn't work out so good for the Rangers. No. Anyway,
one more thing I want to throw in there. So this is the last bit of speculation. I think I'm ready to get off of the speculation. But so here's a quote. From Derek Gould of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the team has no interest in pursuing free agent JD Martinez. Cross that one off.
They're not interested in the King Kong of Slug?
No.
Well,
not him anyway.
But I mean, Scott Boras said he's the King Kong of Slug.
$210 million for 7 years.
Scott Boras said he's a once-in-a-lifetime slugging talent.
He copy-pasted that from what he put out on Prince Fielder. Scott Boras has gotten lazy, man. He's just going back to his old Word documents and cut and paste, and he's just doing this. He's recycling the same shit.
No. Because I am sure that I have never heard anything about Jake Arrieta's nuts before.
Let's get to that in a second. Let me finish this bit off because I'm curious about this. This will be the most fascinating, perplexing thing that we're going to end the show with, and that's Scott Boras talking.
We absolutely need some sound bites for this one because that had to have been just one gold.
You can pull it up in time that the recorders will get it. And the other thing on here. So the Cardinals are chatting internally about the possibility of going after free agent Carlos Gonzalez, and I'm imagining that's probably Plan B, C, if they can't get anything to work out in the Stanton deal or the talks of the deal, whatever they've talked about with the Marlins. So anyway, enough on speculation. I'm exhausted from. I've actually been exhausted from reading it all week. I was actually motivated to tweet out a few lines, which I never do. So that's where I'm at with that. Are you able to find a Scott Boras?
I'm looking.
I don't even want to paraphrase because I've only read a brief synopsis of quotes that he said, and there's actually been a meme today too that was put out about nuts, but I'm going to let you try to find it, and about property taxes. Nuts and property taxes go hand in hand, by the way. Not just in baseball, but in life.
Oh, I can't find it.
You can't find it. All right.
All it is it's music set to the quote. But
so Jake Arrieta is a squirrel that has a lot of nuts. Was that the quote?
Jake Arrieta, yeah. I do have the quote, and I will find it so that I can read it because it was a classic. He's already had some really good ones. I mean, referring to JD Martinez as the King Kong of Slug, that was a good one. What else? He's not happy about the Marlins being allowed. He wants legislation. Now, I don't know if he means just legislation within Major League Baseball or if he means like he wants Congress to take this up. But he wants legislation so that teams can't get their financial house in order after they're sold and new ownership comes in, and wants to make it a little bit easier to service that debt by unloading contracts that another owner signed.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Here we go. Boras said, Jake Arrieta, he's a big squirrel with a lot of nuts in his trees. And I mean, within the larger context, I get the point of what he was saying, right?
Yeah,
when you get into the playoffs, that's the other one. He refers to it as playoff bill. So I guess that means that if you want to be in contention, I think if
you want to be in playoff bill, this is your tour guide right here, right?
Right. Jake Arrieta is one of those guys who can get and keep you in playoff bill. We're talking about fastballs on this podcast. I think Scott Boras is starting to lose his. But anyway, within the larger context.
Early onset dementia. I mean,
yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, within the larger context, the point that he's making is a good one. And obviously, he's trying to throw a little shade on Yu Darvish as well because Darvish is not his client.
Right.
But basically what he's saying is when you get into the playoffs, you want a pitcher who is going to come up big in playoff games, right? And Jake Arrieta has the resume that shows that he does it. You know, and the people that he compared him to were guys like Kershaw and Bumgarner, and he's saying Arrieta has the resume, right? He's won Olympic.
Here's your gamer.
Here's your gamer. This is the guy that you want to put out in an elimination game because he's not going to lose. I mean, he made an excellent point. The Cubs don't win don't win the World Series last year in Game 7 if Jake Arrieta doesn't come out and pitch his ass off in Game 6 so that they can advance to a Game 7. Mm-hmm. Absolutely a valid point. He was the one pitcher who showed up in the playoffs in the NLCS against the Dodgers and staved off elimination for one game. Mm-hmm. But to say that Jake Arrieta is a big squirrel with a lot of nuts in his trees.
I'm gonna have to right now. I'm gonna look at this other one because he had another analogy, a story yesterday, and I'm gonna look it up right now real quick and see if I can find it. It had something to do with property tax. It had something to do with property taxes and the luxury tax. And I'm going to see if I can pull that up real quick because it just. I get it, right? Like people that are familiar with these types of things. Oh, Jesus! It pulled up a bunch of property tax attorneys. The Celia Scott Boras quotes from his latest off-season lecture. Okay, here we go. All right, he looks the part too. Let's say that. Okay, so I see that Jerry Krasnick tweeted Scott Boras just referred to Jake Arrieta as a big squirrel with a lot of nuts in his trees. Don't ask why. All right, Andy McCullough. Don't know what he does. In order to move to playoffs, Scott Boras says you have to pay the property tax. I believe this is a metaphor, but you can never be too sure.
Know what? It was in the context of somebody asked him about.
If you want to be in perpetual playoff contention, right?
The Dodgers wanting to move from Playoffville to Championship City or whatever it was, right? And so basically that's what he's saying is if you want to move into that upper echelon, you got to pay the property tax.
Hold on. Andy McCullough again tweets, this is a command performance from Scott Boras. Says teams who claim they aren't making money, quote, Casper Finance. Where's the ghost? Where's the money? Bob Nightingale. Scott Boras says there have been no talks with the Nats about contract extension for Bryce Harper, but he's willing to listen. The Nats ownership believe Harper in free agency would cost an excess of $500 million. Oh, shit. Okay.
Wait, you don't think so?
Pete, hold on. This is what I remember. So Steve Phillips this morning was talking on MLB Network Radio. He does the leadoff spot, which is the morning show. And I was driving to work, and he's talking about he was the Mets GM when Alex Rodriguez was dipping into free agency his first time through, which was in 2000. I believe it's 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. He said that some of the demands that Boras gave him were, of course, there was a salary, right? $25 million a year. He said the contract with Texas ended up being $252 million for 10 years because the largest professional contract that had ever been signed up to that point was $126. So Boras wanted to double it. That's why it ended up $252. I didn't know that. And I can't remember who the player was, but I think it was a basketball player. So the other demand was that Alex Rodriguez have a tent that was allowed to be put up at spring training so he could sell Alex Rodriguez merchandise and a clothing line or whatever at spring training. The other demand was that he have a marketing office in Shea Stadium at the time that he could work with his marketing rep so they could plan on how they're going to market Alex in the Mets organization. And then finally, he needed a suite for family, friends, and a special room where friends and family could come visit him before and after games. Steve Phillips says this was had nothing to do with the money. This is about all these ridiculous demands that I can never accommodate all the other players on the roster ever.
Sure.
Right. So he's like, as soon as I heard the demand, he's like, I immediately moved to plan B and said, no way. And moved on from it. And so, Alex is eventually a Texas Ranger. But I mean, here's the thing. You make over the top ridiculous demands that are so high and so stupid. I know Boris is the best, right? I mean, if he was your agent, he's going to get you the most money.
Yeah.
But, I mean, seriously, there have been some points in time, though, where you think that he could have been made a little bit more, but he's been so over the top stupid that he's actually lost leverage with teams because immediately they've been like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like Shark Tank. As soon as you open your mouth, they're like, I'm done.
Not interested.
Yep.
And
you're dead to me.
And I would imagine that you're right, that for some teams, it's not the ridiculous money that he's asking for, it's the other crap that he adds on.
It's the accommodations that you can't do that. You can't do that for any of the other 24 potential roster players. Why the hell would you do it for one?
Right.
You just can't do it.
No,
but anyway, and I don't believe Steve Phillips on radio is lying about that. I believe that actually was a demand because you hear the way this guy talks now, you totally believe that that's what he was asking for.
Absolutely.
Who knows if Alex is asking for it or not? I mean, but as a GM, you got to think if you're hearing it from an agent, that's the player asking.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if he really controls this guy's, hold on. Scott Boras, quote, "This isn't the Windy City. This is economic hurricane in Chicago of what the Cubs have done." I have no idea what the hell that was in reference of. They're just literally a list of Scott Boras quotes this week.
No, what he's saying there is that the Cubs are now making money hand over fist, and that they should use that money to re-sign his client.
Right. Oh, yeah, you're right.
And I just don't think that that's
Eric Hosmer fits every franchise, by the way.
Yeah, the Cubs need a first baseman.
They do. Not surprisingly, Scott Boras indicated that he would rather the Yankees not make the effort there to get under the luxury tax threshold. No shit.
Really?
They don't want to do that.
Shocking.
How's that? Oh my God, really? Tell us something we don't know, Scott, please. All right,
and
man.
The funny thing about that is that Scott Boras is never talking about what's best for baseball.
No, never.
He couches it in it, but it's clear he's not talking about what's best for baseball. He's talking about what's best for his clients.
What's best for his cut? What's the max cut I can get?
That too.
You know.
I appreciate that. But stop trying to pretend that you're interested in what's best for baseball because you're just clearly not.
No. When you can, I mean, seriously, I mean, he as much as we understand why he does what he does and why some players love him because he has been able to get them the max of what they could possibly ever get.
Yeah.
Right. So you understand why players appreciate that. And you know through his efforts, they've been able to set themselves up and probably their kids and grandkids for life and set them on a very positive course. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that's all good. But what about young fans that I mean, just put this as an example, Pete. I'm not saying it's ever going to happen, but imagine this, right? Your son loves Chris Bryant.
No,
huge Chris Bryant fan.
Actually, he loves Anthony Rizzo.
Well, Rizzo, but I mean, seriously, I mean, take either of the two, right? Say they're a Boras client. I don't know if either one of them are. But
Bryant is because Boras made a big stink about the Cubs not bringing him up.
Well, just imagine for a minute, Rizzo is a Boras client. I mean, if he switches in his last year, Boras is going to take him to free agency. Boras is going to strip him from the team. And all of a sudden, this is why people hate the guy because he takes your players away.
Right.
Right. If you're a young fan, you don't know any better and you can't process this stuff like an adult.
Why did he leave? There yet. Right. Why did my favorite player leave my team?
Right.
Yep.
Right. And so this is why people hate him, I understand both sides of it. But I'm just wondering if there's ever going to be a day where just some GMs are just going to say, I'm not dealing with him anymore. All right, that's fine. I don't care if you have the 16 highest guys in the draft, you've already retained them, not doing business with you on any of them ever again.
I would imagine that there are.
I just wonder if that will ever happen. I'm sure there's a GM or two that refuse to deal with him.
Yep. Because they just don't want to be a part of it, or because they have gotten screwed by Scott Boras advising one of their players.
Yep.
Or one of their potential targets.
If I don't remember correctly, was Rafael Furcal a Boras client or not? I don't remember, but he verbally had agreed to come back to Atlanta and then all of a sudden did a U-turn and went back to LA. And I'm not sure if it was Boras involved or not, but I only remember one occasion where I believe it was Atlanta and it was over Rafael Furcal that said, I will never deal with that agent again. Right. Don't hear that happening more often, but I'm sure it's kind of one of those things that doesn't make it public that, I'm not a fan of yours. Don't bother talking.
Right.
So anyway, so nothing but good vibes and teddy bears and gumdrops tonight on Team of Rivals podcast. We're talking about all kinds of positive things, all kinds of positive feelings. I think we're going to be in a lull next week. We're going to take a week off because we do have the holidays coming up.
Are we?
And I don't know. Usually I don't want to. Usually I say, hey, we're going to take a little bit of break. But then when it comes down to Thursday night, I'm like, no, I'm not going to. I'm getting on. I don't care. We don't have to. We can record any night next week we want. We'll play it by ear. But if Team of Rebels podcast does happen to take a couple of weeks off, it might be because we're on holiday along with all of you. But we are going to be gearing up for the winter meetings. I think a lot of things are going to happen, and maybe even a few things happen before that. So be prepared if we jump on at random by surprise. Don't be surprised when we do. We're here for you 24/7.
Unless we're not.
Unless I have something else to do. Then I'm not. All right, man.
All right. So with that, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, tune in. We know most of you already subscribe. So how about you share that subscription with your friends and let them know that, we're worth listening to. Come on. We're likable guys. If you're watching on YouTube, please do follow that and then share it with your friends as well.
Yes.
Across the board, please like, rate, and review us. And then on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and every once in a while, Ron now contributing on Twitter. Nice. Very nice.
I figured out where the reply button was. All right, everyone. Been great. Glad we were able to do this for another week here, and look forward to talking more baseball next week. All right, everyone. Have a good week. Bye-bye. Pretty sure I told everyone just to have a good beak.
And I think you also called them every bun.
Every bun have a good beak.
Every bun have a good beak. Nice.